All right, this is Unit 2, Investigation 3, Problem 3.4, Measuring the Egyptian Way. What we're going to be looking at today is what measurements for side lengths will make a right triangle. So the idea being, we're going to take the Pythagorean theorem that you've worked with before, and we're going to use it to prove whether or not three numbers given to us make a right triangle. The Egyptians used to use a rope that they would tie knots into every so far. They were equal intervals. They put 12 knots. Well, then they could mark off different kinds of segments using those knots because they knew how far apart they were. They also could make shapes like triangles out of it to make sure like corners of blocks were square, because a right triangle has a 90-degree angle in the corner. You're going to take that idea and figure out exactly what could be made using specific side lengths. All right, so as it says here, is any triangle whose side lengths A, B, and C satisfy this relationship of a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Or are there some side lengths that do not? And if they do not satisfy that relationship, does that mean they're not a right triangle? So you've got a couple of things to prove today that you're going to get started on. All right, so the bulk of your work is going to start here in Part A. Part A says, copy the table below. Each row gives you three side lengths. We're going to go ahead and use straws. In fact, there should be a baggie with all your straws in it on your desk. You're going to build your triangles. Make sure when you're building your triangles that the straws are meeting at a corner. Don't overlap the edges of them. Literally have the edges touching. If you're not sure what I mean, raise your hand and I'll come show you what it is I mean. Right? So we're going to try the first one together and see what happens. So what I want you to do is find a straw that is 3 inches long, 4 inches long, and 5 inches long, and try to build a triangle. Now I am going to give you one little piece of information here to help you out on this. When you're trying to build right triangles out of 3 side measurements, you need to realize that the hypotenuse will always be the longest side you're given. So in the case of this problem, that means that 5 is going to be your hypotenuse. So we're going to try to see, does 3 squared plus 4 squared equal 5 squared? Okay. So see if that works out. Let's see, 3 squared is 9 plus 4 squared, which is 16. So 9 plus 16 does come out to the same as 5 squared. So this does come out to 25 equals 25. And if you are careful and you build your triangle correctly, you should get a right triangle. So now that I've done the first one for you, I want you to pause this video, and I seriously mean pause it this time, and go through and build the other triangles. So you have 2, 4, 5 more to build. Build the triangles and check to see if it meets the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Hopefully by the time you're done filling in this whole table, you will have a clue as to how to tell if you're going to be able to build a right triangle or not. So go ahead and pause this and start building your right triangles. When you come back, I'll tell you whether you should have met the requirements or not. All right, so hopefully you got the yeses and the nos correct here. So the first 2 side measurements will give you a right triangle. The third one will not. The fourth one will. And the 5th and 6th one will not. And hopefully you're noticing a connection between whether they meet the a squared plus b squared equals c squared requirement and whether or not they were able to make a right triangle. All right, so let's put this into words. They want you to make a conjecture about triangles with side lengths that satisfy the relationship of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, what I'm asking you to do here is, what does it mean? If you're given side measurements and it satisfies this relationship, think about what happened in the table. When they satisfied the relationship, what kind of triangle were you able to build? So here's basically what I'm looking for. If the triangle side lengths satisfy the relationship a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the triangle is a right triangle. And you should notice that if you go back and look at your table. The side lengths that didn't satisfy the relationship, you were not able to build a right triangle out of. So, let's answer the next question. Make a conjecture, which just means make a decision, a conclusion, about triangles with side lengths that do not satisfy the relationship a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So, if you went back and looked at your table, if the triangle side lengths do not satisfy the relationship of a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then your triangle is not a right triangle. It's not possible. A squared plus b squared equals c squared only works on right triangles. All right, so for part C of this problem, we're going to go through and try this out. You have 3 different triangle measurements you're given here. Now you don't have straws of these measurements, so you need to try this out using the Pythagorean theorem to prove whether it works. So I'm going to help you get started with the first one. Now remember, I told you earlier that the longest side is always your hypotenuse, so that makes the 20 units right here RC. So that means to start this problem off, I'm going to go 12 squared plus 16 squared equals 20 squared. Now, let me tell you this. A and B, it doesn't matter which one you assign A and which one you assign B, because they're on the same side, and remember, order doesn't matter with addition. All right, so now I want you to go through and solve this and figure out if the left side and the right side balance each other out. If it works out that way, then you do have a right triangle. If it doesn't, then you do not have a right triangle. So what I want you to do now is pause the video, and again, I do mean pause the video, because you need to actually try this on your own to see if it works. I will give you the answers, but you need to work it out on your own first. All right, so hopefully you did what I asked and you paused the video. Now, for number 1, you should have got a yes. It does work out. For number 2, you also should have got a yes. It does work out. And finally, number 3, you should have got a no. This one does not work out. So the first 2 would give you a right triangle, but the last one would not. All right, at this point, you have finished up the notes for today. You may keep the video because you are going to do some of this on your homework tonight. So go up to the front of the room and pick up your homework if you did not already pick up your homework when you got your notes. Your homework is on the table where the Elmo is. You may get started on it as soon as you're done with this.